into something major. But I was just going to say, well, welcome to everyone to come this evening, to make it here after probably a busy day. Coming to the Buddhist Center in the evening is quite an achievement, I think. So, and we're on week 3 of the meditation challenge. I think we're on week 4 of just starting our classes again. Week 5 of January, so the week is starting. And this first half, I'm just going to give a little recap of what we've been doing, and then we're mainly going to do just a long meditation, a mindfulness of breathing meditation, and maybe check in about our practice. But I was thinking about last week's class or last week's session over the week, and I was struck, like when somebody said in the questions last week, because we did a slightly different, more open sit, that they found that much harder because they were with themselves rather than being distracted by the breath. And I was thinking, I don't know, sometimes meditation can have this sort of idea that it's something really fluffy and be relaxed afterwards. And it's actually quite a courageous practice because we spend time with ourselves and we spend time with our minds. Even though it may make us feel relaxed, but I've had quite a few meditations where I've ended up being angry, getting up of my cushion, feeling completely different. But it's this view. Remember my mum talking to me whenever I was going on retreat. She always said, "Oh, and after the retreat, were you feeling relaxed?" And I always said, "Yes, I did, Mum," just because I knew she was worried about me. Sometimes I tried to talk to her about it, and I didn't always feel relaxed, but I always came back off retreat, I suppose, feeling different, feeling quite elated, because you do the meditation practice, but you also touch into something deeper when you're on retreat, or you connect with people and you connect with a deeper practice, or and what we're doing here in a way isn't that different. So one reason we are doing the 4 reminders during come in higher. Actually going to start again. I mean, I was thinking about into touching something deeper. In my just doing the mindfulness of breathing, doing the Metta Bhavana, is doing just that, because we they seem like simple practices where we sort of slow down and we focus on our breath, but we are also having this time, spending this time with ourselves and sort of meeting ourselves and meeting our minds. And I'm always struck that so many people say that they find the Metta Bhavana, the first stage, the most difficult one, which you spend with yourself. But just the practice of sort of looking ourselves without judgment, I think, is a massive step of that we do. And then the Metta Bhavana doesn't stop there. Sort of we have the stages of ourselves, a friend, a neutral person, a difficult person, and the world. And we practice sort of meeting those people without judgment and kindness. And it's sort of trying, it's starting to transform ourselves, and it's starting to transform our relationship with the world. So the 4 reminders, is the Buddhist teaching that almost puts another layer on top of that, or it takes it just a bit deeper, by giving us the reminders of, so far we've had this human life is precious. Everything is impermanent, and only death is certain, but the time of my death is uncertain, which are, the fundamental Buddhist teachings. And one point of them is to remind ourselves, if we reflect on them, in a way, we hopefully get the urge to practice. But they're also a reminder of sort of how can we connect these higher truths with our day-to-day practice of meditation. How can we bring this into our meditation and also into the practice of our everyday life? Because as we meditate, we are sort of transforming ourselves, and we also notice that what we do in the world has an effect on others, which is the third of the 4 reminders, which is what Arthur Siddhi will talk about after the break. And we don't have to do different kinds of meditation to do that. We can sort of be aware of those higher truths, those reminders in the mindfulness of breathing, in the metta bhavana, even if it's not even consciously thinking about them. Sometimes it's good to read the 4 reminders when we meditate, and I think I might read them out again before we start the mindfulness of breathing meditation in a bit. Yeah, I think that's mainly what I wanted to say. So, I've had a really long day in London, so I'm feeling slightly fried. So I'm actually very keen myself to meditate, to sit down and settle. So we'll do the simple, the mindfulness of breathing. What I'll do is I'll read out the 4 reminders, the short version. And then you can just leave them sit there, and move to doing the mindfulness of breathing, just concentrating on the breath. I'll lead us in a body scan, and I'll remind you of the stages of the mindfulness of breathing, and we'll do that for about 25 minutes. So I think get ready, get into your meditation. Or whatever makes you feel comfortable to meditate for about 25 minutes. Yeah, finding a position where you can sit relaxed but be alert. And just slowly gathering our energy around us. Just becoming present in the room, becoming present in our own space. Being present in our place, on our cushion, on our chair. Finding the breath in this being. That's our body and our energies and our mind. And for a short while, simply doing nothing. This human birth is precious, an opportunity to awaken. But this body is impermanent. Ready or not, one day I shall die. So this life I must know as the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. The karma I create shapes the course of my life. But however I act, life always has difficulties. No one can control it all. Only the Dharma. Only the Dharma can free me and others from suffering forever. Therefore I recall my heart's longing for freedom and resolve to make use of every day and night to realize it. And then letting those words drop away and finding the gravity of our body. Feeling the earth under the soles or the sides of our feet. Feeling the solidity of our body, the bones in our feet, our legs, our pelvis. Feeling our sitting bones on the cushion or the chair. Giving a solid foundation for our spine, which is gently curving upwards from our pelvis. If you want to raise your shoulders and roll them back, letting your upper arms hang from your shoulders. And your lower arms in your hands supported in your lap. An open chest and torso, giving you space to breathe. Being aware of our vertebrae in our neck, holding up our skull, our head. Having our chin slightly tucked in. The tongue relaxed in our mouth. See if we can let our face just hang, relaxed. Nobody can see us. Finding our breath again. And if you're ready, starting the first stage of the mindfulness of breathing, counting our breath and dropping a count at each out breath. So breathing in and breathing out, 1. Breathing in and breathing out, 2. And so on. Can you get a sense of your breath as you're breathing in and out? Is it shallow or is it deep? Is it changing? As you continue with the practice. And simply observing without judgment. And in the second stage of the mindfulness of breathing, carrying on with counting the breath, putting the count at the beginning of each in-breath. If we get distracted and thoughts arise, can we gently send them on their way, like clouds in a blue sky, and coming back to our body, the ground beneath our feet, and start the counting from 1 again. Stage 3 of the mindfulness of breathing. Have a check-in with your body and your posture. By this stage, quite often, our posture has changed. So if you want to make any adjustments, see if you're still sitting upright. Is your body still comfortable? Are you still grounded? And in this stage, simply observing our breath. Letting our breath do its own thing. And simply being with our breath. See if we can be with our breath. And also notice sounds arise and fall away. But we're still here. We're still breathing. And in the fourth stage of the mindfulness of breathing, bringing the wider attention on our breath back more into focus. Maybe the point where you can feel the breath entering your body, feeling the air in our nostrils, or feeling our belly expand as we breathe into our body, feeling it rise and fall away with each in-breath and out-breath. Having the awareness of air entering our body and leaving our body. And breathing in again and out again. And having the focus on our breath, are we aware of this fleeting moment That is our in-breath and our out-breath. But that happens again and again, all by itself. Every breath is new. And coming to the end of the meditation, for a couple of minutes, if we floated away with our thoughts, coming back to our body, feeling the ground under our feet, the cushions under our sitting bones. If you want to feel the physicality of your body with your hands. And simply sitting without any effort at all. Have a stretch if you want. Well, having said that, meditation is not about being fluffy and relaxed. I feel more relaxed than I did before we started. But I think that's not because I've just spent 20 minutes counting my breath. You know, something happens in meditation. I think it's being with our mind in our body. There's a sort of integration of the two, which I think can lead to this feeling a little bit more grounded. And ready to face things. What we were thinking of doing because we've got some time before the tea break. Because we come here, I want to say we come here every week. I hope you come here every week. We come here and, you know, we chat to people in the breaks today, and you might chat about your meditation, but quite often we just talk about everyday things, you know. So I thought we'll spend a couple of minutes just going into pairs and talking about our meditation. You know, you can talk, if you're on a meditation challenge, you can talk about how the meditation challenge has been. If you're meditating, you can talk about how you've experienced this meditation, or how your meditation is going. And it's literally just for you guys to check in with each other and have a chance to say anything you might want to say about how your meditation is going. What we're going to do, though, we're not going to have a conversation. I thought we'll do a thing which is called active listening. So if you go into pairs, we'll have 2 minutes each where just one person is basically telling the other person about how they're talking, you know, how the meditation challenge is going, how your meditation is going, and the other person just listens. And I'll ring a bell after 2 minutes, and then you'll swap over and the other person talks. It's just a way of more listening to what, you know, what the other person is saying, rather than sometimes you just want to jump in and go, I do that, you know, which is nice, but it's just trying out a different thing. And if you've run out of things, because 2 minutes is actually quite long, so if you run out of things to say, just be silent. See, and I'll ring a bell after 2 minutes, and then you'll know when to swap over. And I think when you say, if you don't know each other, say your name, and decide. Sometimes it's like, I'm going to say, if you want to, I think, get yourselves into pairs, and then we'll I'll tell you when to start. If you don't want to say anything to you know, as I say, don't. We might just have a room. And sometimes it's easier. Don't start, don't speak. This is an XR thing. I haven't told you to start yet. Sorry. Sometimes it's good to think about. Anyway, if you haven't decided who starts, it's usually, sometimes it's like who's got the shorter hair, but that's a bit tricky if you've got the same thing. So, but anyway, I've got the timer set, so 2 minutes. So do start.
If we do it, then you'll completely lose track of time.
No, that's true. But I don't mind. I think 2 minutes probably wasn't enough time. But we've got the tea break now, so you've got plenty more time to chat, to talk. And after the tea break, Artisidi will tell us about the third reminder, karma. So yeah, thank you.
What's the third reminder?
The reminder is karma. Our actions shape our world shape. So actions have consequences. It's the third reminder. It's the whatever I do. It's basically karma. So, but you will. The karma I create shapes the course of my life, basically. Yeah. See what Artisidi has to say. Yeah. I create a midden of my things.
A midden?
Yeah.
Do you know what a midden is? A midden?
Midden is like a pile of stuff. The heap of rubbish.
Is that archaeological?
Probably is. Yeah. I mean, I think not entirely. But
Not entirely, but well used there.
Well, it's So it might be on just a
It is on. Oh, is that on? Don't say anything about it. That's now.
After cities really left the best.
Hello. The energy. Well, that's fine. I was awake before.
Any good reason?
That's debatable, but I thought maybe. Yeah. Too noisy, yeah.
Sorry, I'm silly. I forgot to blow the candles out when I went out.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah, I think, yeah.
Shall I light them now?
Thanks.
When are they coming back in? How fast?
No, 25
Oh, okay.
This is the other centre, but
supposed. No, this is different.
That is Rivendell, yeah. So that's a Buddhist retreat centre. Have you been to Rivendell?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But this is not the same. Well,
It's
you know,
the same community.
arranged for 14th of February. You say.
No.
No, it's different.
Yeah, different centre, yeah.
Isabel and I are going to Rivendell next week.
Is it Rivendell? Oh, I didn't realise it was Rivendell.
I've only been once and I didn't enjoy it, so I'm hoping this will be better.
Good luck.
In a week's time, you will. It's not for this weekend. Next weekend. This is Easter. Seventeenth to 21st. Oh, just that. June. When it was outside.
They can talk slowly, like more quiet. Everybody will be thumbs up. Yeah, I'm going in, so that I'm complaining.
Are you two going on the meditation retreat, the challenge retreat, at the end of February the 14th?
We should.
I'll work.
Well,
I'll work. On
We
it.
didn't know. We were planning, but
Because it starts from morning.
it starts Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that's it. We work on Saturday.
Ah, that's a shame.
They will be coming, one in April, and
Yeah.
one is in some in the
June.
June.
Yeah, the 5-day one in June.
Yeah, the maybe will be fun.
Be nice.
Great, welcome back. I think this is us, unless there's someone who was sitting next to you. But, oh, we've lost Olivia, haven't we? But she might have needed to leave, I think. Great. In which case we'll start. Just to say my name's Arthur Siddy, just in case we've not had a chance to meet. I'm one of the team here at Meditation Night. And as Dianita was saying, we're at the moment on the meditation challenge, and in this class we're following this traditional teaching, about 700 years old, Tibetan teaching of the four reminders, which are sort of the internal conditions, if you like, for actually wanting to meditate, wanting to change your mind. And so we've looked at the preciousness of human life. That's the starting point, really getting in touch with how precious human life is. And that's particularly from a Buddhist point of view, because we have the capacity to take responsibility for our minds and grow in awareness, grow in consciousness. That's only possible with reflexive self-consciousness. So that's the first one, and that is something that's true for any human being. That's the point. That's why distinctively human life is precious. That's the kind of the sort of cosmological sort of significance in the tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, and that can be developed all the way up to the fulfillment of human consciousness, which is what the Buddha did. So that's the first one, and the second one, as Dianita was saying, is impermanence and death. A bit of a wake-up call. Which we were looking at last week, so have a look at that on YouTube if you want to catch up. And then this week we're looking at actions do matter. That's what we're looking at, which is this topic of karma. Probably one of the most famous Buddhist words, isn't it? Karma. So a really important point is karma, sort of crucial point to grasp what's being said with karma, it's quite, there's a subtlety to karma, to what exactly is being said, but I don't want to get too kind of doctrinal about it, because it's possible then to get into a sort of speculative kind of state, thinking about what's going to be said and completely miss the import. And I want to approach it as per its relevance in meditation. Through this, actions do matter. That is the point. That is the point. So that's what I want to talk about. And I'm borrowing a bit from Maitreya Bandhu, a really great teacher, much loved teacher down in London, who teaches and lives down at London Buddhist Centre, who draws on a parable from a traditional sutta, a very, very famous sutta called the White Lotus Sutta, that comes from later Buddhism. It's travelled most of the globe. So it's very, very well known and well loved, very central sutta. And in that sutta, there are these wonderful parables. So the thing about sort of myth and symbol is that it can get us closer to our lived experience. So that's why I want to explore it through that, explore this point that actions do matter through this parable. And the parable is the parable of the drunkard and the jewel. So it's very, very simple. It goes like this, that there was once a man who goes to stay with a friend, and when he's at his close friends, he gets drunk and he falls asleep. And then his friend, seeing that he is not in great shape, out of friendship, he sews a precious jewel into his friend's cloak whilst he's still asleep. And then that friend who sewed in the jewel goes out on a business errand, and he's not there by the time the friend wakes up, who puts on his cloak and goes out into the world and looks here, looks there for work, in order to get food, to make ends meet. Goes over here, goes over there, does all sorts of things to try and get his needs met. Wearisome, toilsome, difficult kind of work, because he's destitute. And at a certain point, that man, by chance, runs into his friend, who'd sewn the jewel into his garment. He says, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Do you not realize that back then at that date, when you were at my house, I sewed into your garment a priceless jewel, which you could use to gain all of the needs that you have." So that's the parable. That's the parable. Yeah, I just want to use it to explore this really, really important really important point. Actions do matter. So first of all, when we say actions in Buddhism, action is of body, speech, and mind, which we don't often think in that sort of way, do we, in the West? So when you act, when you give someone something, that's a bodily action. When you say something to someone, you thank them, whatever it is, it's a verbal action. But also, our thoughts, actually, our memories, those are actions too. That's what's being, that's what's encompassed in karma. And the point is that all of those actions actually matter. they really matter. It's just that most of the time we might know that up here, but we don't act like that. We don't act like that. Most of the time, we are in, as the metaphor goes, we are drunk. We're drunk. That's the sort of metaphor in the parable, that the man gets drunk. We're not fully aware that actions have consequences, that actions really matter. Just lost my thread there. Oh, completely lost my thread. Yeah. So yeah, that's right. So this relates to one of the translations of the word mindfulness, apramada. Mada actually is cognate with a liquor made from honey, which obviously is an intoxicant, was an intoxicant. So apramada means sort of without drunkenness, that's what it means. So yeah, it's quite a sort of that metaphor kind of runs back, that symbol runs back right into early Buddhism. So what's being got at here is, there's another metaphor, and that is the sleep. The guy sleeps, falls asleep. So what can be drawn out of this is that actually the sleep is suggestive of something that is natural. Now, what kind of loss of awareness that is natural? That sleep is really the sleep of us. The mind that we're kind of born with, that has this structure built within it, that we just assume we are a fixed and separate, entirely separate and fixed self, independent self. You can kind of look into that and find that it's not there. But as soon as you look away, it's back. So that's why it's like sleep. It's not something that we've done. We're not sort of, we haven't designed it. We haven't deliberated and concluded that that's the case. It's just part of the structure of consciousness. Whereas the drunkenness is something we do. It's something we do. So what the drunkenness is about is that we act in ways that are completely oblivious of the fact that actions matter. I know we sort of, sometimes we're aware of that, aren't we? But actually, if we look at ourselves most of the time, we think a lot of what we're doing. If we think of, that each day, we've probably got millions of small actions if we include our mental actions as well. Are we thinking actions matter? Probably not. Most of the time, we don't realize actions matter until it's too late. What it's like when you get into that that text exchange, and then it sort of had something in a family text exchange. Before I knew it, it was sort of whoa, where's this going? This is getting a bit heated, a bit polarized, and in the end it was fine. But it's a bit like we don't realize until it gets to that point that actions matter, and then at that point we're kind of thinking, how can I get out of this? How can I sort of maneuver in this situation to sort of resolve this? But the thing is, by that point, you've already had one too many in the metaphor. You've already had one too many. You don't realize that you've already kind of brought something to that situation that's meant that you're in an awkward situation. Yeah. It's a bit analogous to when you get drunk, you kind of get into fights. You don't realize, you don't plan that, do you? But you just suddenly find yourself in this fight. Well, that is because of actions, previous actions, and the previous actions are that you drunk one too many. Yeah, so that's the kind of metaphor that actually all the time we're acting, but most of the time we don't even consider that these actions actually have a huge bearing on our lives, because it's not apparent yet. It's not apparent until crash. That text gets a bit sort of polarized. And then in that moment, either we just sort of react out of our automatic tendencies, or maybe you manage to kind of go, whoa, what's going on here? And you realize, oh my God, I am drunk. I'm drunk here. Yeah, I'm not fully aware of the kind of mind I've built and the mind I'm acting with. Yeah, so that's the kind of metaphor. So on the basis of that idea that we're a fixed and separate self, that fixed and separate self experiences the world as, well, at times threatening. At times that sense of self gets threatened. What we want is sort of ignored or confronted or disagreed with or something like that. And there's a sense of threat. So as soon as we got this sort of fixed sense of self that has a barrier, and I want to decide what, what promotes, what supports self, and what I don't want, we end up with a sense of threat. And on the basis of that sense of threat, we've got this automatic patterning of our minds. We've not designed it ourselves. It's just what we're born with, such that we will automatically respond to threat with aversion, trying to push it away, or respond with kind of craving. If there's something that we kind of we want to happen, some person that we want to be in our lives, some job that we want, our minds are automatically wired to respond with craving. It's not our fault. That is the way our minds are wired. Or with anxiety. Anxiety is another very natural response. Some sort of scenario that hasn't even happened, and we're sort of worrying that might happen. It's fascinating when you see what you're really doing, but that's what we do. I've been worrying about things that this week that worked out completely differently from my worries, but at the time it's hard to convince yourself, isn't it? So that's another thing that our mind automatically does, or it can just switch off. I've had enough. Let's just switch off. Let's just go under the covers. This is a traditional list, sometimes called the hindrances. Or the last one is that actually we're just unwilling to commit to any sort of definite course of action. We sort of vacillate in indecision, not wanting to decide on any particular approach to life. So this is what's being got at. These are the four pramadas. If apramada, is a negative, without pramada, these are the five sort of pramadas. These are the five ways we act in a drunken kind of way. So we're all familiar with it. Those people who have those views that are just outrageous, and actually, if we're honest, we experience aversion to them. We hate them. We want them to not be on the planet with those views. That's what we want if we look more closely, without drunkenness, into our minds, for example. This metaphor of drunkenness is not like a kind of moralistic thing. It's not that it's bad. It's just that it doesn't serve us. It's not in our interests at all to act in that unaware, automatic kind of way. It really isn't. We just make things worse. Yeah, we don't believe that at the time, but we just make things worse. If we are drunk with these automatic tendencies, unaware of them running our actions, it just makes things worse. All too often we're kind of in this sort of hinterland, aren't we? Whereby we're sort of trying to do the best, but there's some underlying automatic kind of tendency at play, and we sort of muddle through, not quite aware of why we're acting fully, why we're acting in that way. Yeah, so that's the state we're in. And then on the basis of that, we get hooked up on outcomes that we think we need, which automatically we engage with in this unaware, kind of drunken kind of way. That's the guy going out into the world, hooked on these outcomes that he needs, but unaware that actually we're choosing a particular way to go about getting those. We're not really conscious that actions do matter. So yeah, I hope this is kind of ringing true. I suppose. Yeah, it is usually when things kind of crash that we see what's going on. That's my experience. Yeah, but in a way, what this is getting at is it's not merely that with a bit more mindfulness, things will go a little bit better. That is true. That with a bit more mindfulness, things will go a little bit better. It's not only that this teaching is saying. This teaching is saying something far more profound, far more far-reaching, which is that actually, if we really engage with mindfulness, if we really attend, mindfulness has this intrinsic awareness of the fact that actions have consequences. The word mindfulness, apramada, actually sort of it can be translated as ethical vigilance. So it's got intrinsically ethical awareness to it. And if we actually engage with that, then we start to discover something of infinite value. So it's not just that our life is kind of slightly better, slightly easier. There is the possibility of discovering something of infinite value, that actually we can start to discover a love that begets more love, yeah, infinite in that sense, something that actually turns our life, can turn our life around, can enable us as human beings to do extraordinary things, of which, we know the stories of that. So that's what's being said, that actually we stand as human beings in this crucial position of being capable of extraordinary feats of humanity, and also capable of extraordinary stupidity, really, when we actually kind of stand back. And history's strewn with that, isn't it? You wonder how the Holocaust ever came off, a whole country of people. Well, that's how it sort of came off. So that's what's being said. And the thing is, it's very, very hard for us to see that actually, if we really pay close attention to the quality of our actions, and instead of acting from our automatic tendencies, actually act from love, awareness, generosity, then there's something, we find ourselves in possession of something of infinite value. That's the symbol of the jewel. So it's there, it's on our person. It's just we don't see it. That's the point that's being made. And we see it through really attending to the ethical quality of our actions. So I suspect that oftentimes we don't fully see this until it bumps into us. And that's how I read what happens in the the parable, that he it's just by happenstance that he bumps into his friend and says, "Oh gosh, don't you realise that actually everything you're doing, this whole poverty-stricken life, that is it's a complete waste of time. You're kind of caught up with outcomes, hooked on outcomes that you just don't even need to worry about." You see this as you get drawn closer to death. You see, oh my goodness, what was I sort of worrying about that? Or self-esteem or whatever it is. We get kind of hooked up on outcomes that actually are really sort of inconsequential if we kind of step into a more existential vision of life. Yeah, so usually it's happenstance. It's something that happens that pushes us into an awareness of this. This was a case for me last year. I hope it's not too sort of dramatic a story, but when a friend, my closest friend, probably contracted terminal cancer unexpectedly. It probably usually is unexpected. And suddenly I was kind of drawn into the sphere of death. Death not as a happening over there, death as part of life, my life and my friend's life. And extraordinary sort of experience, not what I imagined. One thing was I was just pulled into the present moment, nothing outside of the present moment. Planning didn't mean anything. Really surprising. I was kind of extraordinarily happy, extraordinarily grateful in that moment. Very, very. I mean, not to exclude sadness. It's impossible to sort of sum up. But what really struck me was that, of course, all my drunken habits came out too. So there I was confronted with my dear friend, who actually is in constant pain, chronic pain. And so what do I do? Well, actually, I can do nothing about that. But my habits are to feel if somebody close to me is struggling, is in pain, to feel I surely should be doing something. So those kind of habits, those drunken, unaware habits kind of coming out and completely inadequate to the situation, you just make it worse. So this other person actually just sort of feels on the end of your sort of flailing around, if you're ill at ease with the fact that you can do nothing for them. So really confronting, sort of seeing that. But in that being sort of drawn out and confronted, it was like suddenly being in a foreign country. Suddenly I was in a foreign country, and everything of value that I had, the currency that I was used to, was worthless, utterly worthless. There was nothing I could do. The only thing that was of value was love. That was the only thing that had any value in that particular situation, and that value was infinite. It was quite a shock, actually, that the only thing that was totally appropriate to the situation was just to open my heart and love. There was nothing that I could get back. There was nothing that I could do to help, to change the situation. All I could do was love. And actually that love was totally sufficient to the situation, to what he needed. But then it was totally sufficient to what I needed too. It was like a discovery of what is of true value and why can't I live with that all the time. Yeah, that was what it was like. And it was like being put in touch with something tremendously precious. That was the experience of it. So, as I say, often we probably only see this fully, the preciousness of this capacity we have to actually choose how we respond to situations, to actually choose to love. We probably only really fully see that when we're pushed into a situation where all our usual currency of kind of exchange and kind of mixed motives, doing our best, muddling through, run up against a wall in some sort of a way. And then what can happen is something deeper can come through. So that's what's being got at, that actually, if in our drunken unawareness, in our sort of poverty-stricken kind of approach to life, we don't fully see that we're acting from subtle sort of aversion, or maybe not so subtle, aversion or craving or anxiety, or kind of just kind of switching off, or kind of doubt, vacillation. Whatever is happening, the circumstances, it's just going to make it worse. It is actually just going to make it worse. That was what I did just a couple of days ago, but I only saw it afterwards. Yeah, I didn't do too badly, but actually I made it worse. I did make it worse. And that's what I was in threat of doing with my friend. If I hadn't sort of seen my habits, actually it's awful being in that situation when other people are so caught up with their own inability to actually just be with the situation, the reality of death, and the possibility of ongoing pain. They can't be with you. It can be incredibly isolating. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what's being got at here, that we have this crucial choice to be aware that actions every moment really matter. Yeah. And that's really what we're doing in the Metta Bhavana. That's the underlying truth to the Metta Bhavana. So what we can do is we can take this into the Metta Bhavana. So in order to do that, I think we'll do a kind of simplified Metta Bhavana, just the first, the second, and the fifth stage. And what I'll invite you to do is to just like that man out in the country going about his life trying to make ends meet, hooked on outcome. What we're doing is we're going to unhook from outcome, from results, from our sort of preconceptions of where the practice should be going. Yeah, we're going to completely just relax all that. And just see instead if we can stay much more closely with the process. Yeah, instead of a goal orientation of where we want to get to, let's just stay with process. All too often with a metta, because we know where we're trying to go, we're sort of our focus is on the metta, and then kind of we're trying to make it happen. We're trying to sort of contrive the experience into being. Well, let's just kind of drop all that. Let's just be open to what happens, yeah, and kind of stay with the process. So that's the first thing. And then we're going to keep the practice really simple. Let's just make the practice coming back sooner. So just as within the mindfulness of breathing, in the Metta Bhavana we get distracted. When we get distracted, we don't cultivate metta. So the way the practice works is if we give our attention to a kindly attitude, then that will grow. If we give our attention to our irritation, that will grow. That's how the practice works. So what we're trying to do in the practice is simply give our attention and sustain our attention more and more in this attitude of kindness. That's all we're trying to do. So we'll make the practice sort of very, very simple and make the focus of the practice very simple. In the mindfulness of breathing, it's really simple, isn't it? It's the breath, really obvious. So in this practice, what will make the focus is our attitude. So we'll sort of, and we'll focus on that. Often the heart center is the best sort of physical focus. We'll try and find that attitude of kindliness and focus through that attitude, obviously in the second stage, on our friend. Yeah, so it's like that's the focal point, is that attitude through which we can attend to our friend. And when we go off, great, well done for noticing that, and we'll just try and come back. We'll just come back, yeah, and then we go off again. We'll just try and come back sooner. That's all we're trying to do, and see if we can rest our attending more and more in that attitude. And if you notice when you're doing that, you notice some of these other. Well, if we notice distraction essentially is a manifestation of half-heartedness. That's what it is. Half of us wants to do something else. So see if you can instead just come back and trust in the practice. Yeah, that's the third thing we'll do, just trust in the practice. Great, so you can be choosing your chosen good friend. And when you're ready, closing your eyes. And just taking time to start to tune in to your experience. Which means just feeling the sensations in the body. Not thinking about them or attending to an image, an outline, but actually feeling the sensations. And see if you can feel the sensations throughout the body. So perhaps starting the top of the body with the face. And let's just see if we can attend to the sensations in the face with a kind of kindly attitude, kindly tinge. If that seems too much, just with a softness. And then the whole of the scalp. and the throat. Just with this gentle or soft attending, feeling whatever's happening, the subtle tensions in the throat and the neck. And just imagining your shoulders relaxing down your back. And then feeling your weight, the weight of the body just dropping through into the ground. And then breathing into the center of the chest. Feeling whatever sensations going on. Feeling if there's any sort of more internal sensation to the heart center, not the biological heart, but below the skin in the chest. Any strange sort of sense of shape. And just seeing if you're attending to this area, to the heart center, can just have a kindly kind of feel to it, kindly attitude. See if you can connect with that. And if you can, that's our focus. And if you can't, try something a bit easier, maybe just like a softness, or maybe patience. Can you just attend to your heart center with patience? And we're going to drop any concern for outcome whatsoever and just trust in giving our attention, this mental act of choosing what we attend to. And as you do this, you might start to experience other tremors, anxieties, or wanting your experience to be different, subtle aversion. So just letting those into your awareness with kindness. Let them be there. Recognize them kindly, and then choose again to attend to the heart center with patience. That's our focus. So keeping the practice as simple as that. And if you find yourself going off into thought, see if you can feel what's happening in the body underneath all that. With kindness, just let it be there. But recognize it. And then when you're ready, choose again to attend to the attitude of kindness or patience in the heart center. So that's our focus. Whenever you go off, just coming back sooner. That's the practice. And now, still focusing in the heart center, through that focal point, starting to get a sense of your friend. So feeling the heart center and having a sense of your friend. And just being open to what's happening in the heart center with this kindly, patient or soft awareness. And when your mind goes off, just coming back sooner. And particularly attentive to any glimmers of a friendly attitude, appreciative. And when your mind wanders off, coming back to the focus, the heart center, and as it were, through that focal point, the sense of your friend. Not trying to make anything happen. Unhook from outcome. Just trusting in the process. And now as we come to the fifth stage, the last stage, continuing to attend to the focal point, the heart center, and this attitude of patience, kindness. So anchored in your direct experience, let your awareness go out to somebody here in the room, as it were, through the focal point of your heart center. Being aware of them. See if you can stay in touch with the particular attitude, kindliness, rather than just passive pleasantness or unpleasantness. Any glimmers of slight softening towards that person. And then somebody else, so letting your awareness go out to real people, not just thinking about people, they're actually there. Met as a real response to the real. So letting your awareness go out to more and more people while staying anchored in the heart center. Not being over ambitious, keeping it simple and real. Just this mental action of giving our attention. in a kindly way. And now, as we come towards the end of the practice, just sitting absolutely still, not meditating, not trying to make anything happen or anything not happen. See what the actual time is. Yeah. Great. I think we've come to the